True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I wanted to open the show with that tribute and apologize. I didn't mean to get into some of the disclaimers and so forth. I just wanted to play that beautiful tribute to Charlie and his family before we get started here. Listen, we have two very special guests today. I'm so pleased to be joined by Abigail, just going to show her by her first name, and Hunter. Abigail, prior to anything happening to Charlie Kirk, to his assassination, she was working on starting a chapter in Florida at the school she attends. She is part of the Turning Point organization. And so I want to bring her up on the stage for sort of the second half. She's going to join us throughout. And then I also am going to be joining Hunter. Hunter actually attends the school where the shooting took place, and in fact was just really a few yards away when Charlie Kirk was shot. And I thought it would be very important to get both perspectives, the perspective of why people attended, who was there, what they saw, the impact, and then the impact for individuals who were part of the organization before he was ever shot and working on getting a chapter going. And so anyway, without further ado, if we could, I will be bringing them both to the stage at the same time. Welcome, Abigail, and welcome, Hunter.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you both for being here. Hunter, I want to start with you. I first want to ask you what university you attend. I know I already led into it. And what brought you to actually going to this Turning Point event? Tell us all about it.
Awesome. Yeah, so I go to UVU, Utah Valley University. And speaking about the event, it was actually kind of like a funny coincidence. So, like, basically, for 2 years, I was on a mission, and I just got back like a few months ago. And I really actually, at the time, I heard a little bit about Charlie Kirk, but I just like met up with some homies in the hallway, and they're like, "We're going to Charlie Kirk." And I was like, "All right, I'll go with you guys." But when we were walking down the hallway, I was like, we were getting closer and closer to there. And I like parted ways to go get some food for a little bit. And then I actually came back because I saw there were so many people there, and I was like interested. I was like, why are there so many people? Like, there's a few thousand there at this Charlie Kirk event. And I was super interested. So that's what like actually led me to going to the event, was the like attention to, I don't know, what I saw. But when I got there, basically, I heard him talking a little bit about the issues and what was going on. But as far as that goes, that's like what I kind of knew going into the show. That's what like kind of drew me to the event.
So, Hunter, tell us, did you know who Charlie Kirk was even before this event ever? Had you heard of him or did you know of him?
I just heard of him that same day. Like I heard he was having an event. That's all I knew. That's all I know.
So you didn't go there as some sort of particular fan or somebody that was part of the organization. You literally just happened upon it. It was an event. Some of your friends were going there. I love it when you said homies. That's so funny. And you decided to go. So there you are. And I want to bring up this picture because I want to give everybody an idea as to where you were in proximity to Charlie Kirk. I think I have a pretty good picture here. Let's bring this up to the stage. Can you describe from this photo where you were?
Yeah, so basically, if you see that big cardboard sign where those speakers are at, there's like on that bottom right edge, looks like there's like a tanner, I suppose, figure that like has brown hair. That's like exactly where I was at. I don't like, I can't say like exactly that's like me for sure, like 100%, but that's literally like exactly where I was at when I saw the shooting. Like a few rows back, there was like a little pool in front of me and like two rows of people. And then in front of that pool, there was just like a few people right there.
All right. So you're watching this event. About how long had Charlie Kirk been, interacting with the crowd and speaking and so on before you heard the shot?
I'm pretty sure what I saw is he started at 12 and I got down there. And I think it was around 12. It was between 12:20 and 12:24 or like 12:25 because I was right there. I think it was at like 12:24, right there at that time. That's what I heard. But that's like exactly the time right when I was down there, right next to him when he was shot.
And so he's talking and you're listening and you're with your friends. And tell me exactly what you heard. Exactly what you heard.
Yeah, this is funny. I've heard this from other people too, like exact same words. Is like I heard like right from my left ear, like distinctly, I just heard like a firecracker, a firework. And it was just like weird. It didn't like it could have been a gunshot, but initial thought was definitely a firework or a firecracker.
And I'm looking just to confirm the time was 12:23. So you were about spot on in your estimation of, what you heard and when. So you hear this firecracker and did you ever even think this was a shot ringing out, or literally you thought it might be firecrackers because of the event?
Yeah, Jen, I was super confused. Like I thought it was just a firecracker or a firework, just someone I don't know, messing around, playing around. But it like all kind of reality hit super fast, like there directly after, Jen.
So tell me about that, Hunter. So you hear this firecracker type noise and you only heard one, is that correct?
Yeah, I only heard one. So like a little bit about it is I was right next to someone. We were both like we were just chatting a little bit and like I heard it and like right as I heard it I like snapped my neck to the left to like look and like simultaneously like I think naturally I thought it was like a firework but I went right back to the speaker and that's when it was like just it was so crazy like describing like I looked right back after he had immediately been shot and so it was like right after he like pulsed right after he was like shook from the bullet and that's when like I just watched like as he was like kind of stuck in place. I like watched the blood like just gush out of his neck. If I'm giving a little gory description, sorry, but it was like so surreal. Like I thought it was fake at first. It was absurd. I was just like I saw it and I thought it was something staged. I was like initially, and I think everyone did because everyone kind of paused, and then he started to fall back, and like that's when reality kind of set in, and it started like give everyone like a shiver. Like that was like when fear set in. I think for everyone, like I never felt like a real like fear for my life. Like my life was out of my hands. Like someone could have just um started to shoot everyone, just like how they had shot Charlie.
So initially, I mean, this description is so interesting because it's really in keeping with what happens a lot of times where you're at a location and something horrific like this rings out, and the reality of it just cannot catch up to the brain because you've never experienced anything like this before. So it doesn't make sense that it could possibly be real. But at some point, was it at the point you saw the blood, or even after that, was it more when he slumped that you realized it was very real?
Yeah, it was the point he slumped because honestly, I thought he died right there on the spot. Like I thought he was dead, and so that's the point when I was like, "Wait, he actually like got shot. Like this isn't a joke." Because I mean, honestly, like I did think it was not real. I was like, I think that's how it hits everyone, right? Like, is this really real? And then I started to see like as I thought the life like left him, and it was just like so saddening. I think everyone's hearts just dropped in that moment. I was like that's when it kind of like set in. That's when I thought it really was like real and that he was shot.
And so, what did you do, very specifically you? And then we'll talk about everybody else. But what did you do at the moment you realized it was real?
At the moment, I think everyone kind of fell into the same exact mode. I kind of felt like a sheep, honestly. We all just like fell to the ground, and there, like after I was there for 5 seconds, but I realized I was like, I'm a sitting duck. Like I'm gonna die if this guy just starts shooting people. So like, right, like immediately, like I guess I kind of like saw it as like fight or flight just like kicked in. And so I just like started to run and like jump over some people. And there was like people running by me. And then I think everyone just started to get up and run because everyone kind of realized like, I don't know, it was just so um, frightening, really. It was just like crazy. It was like someone has a gun and I'm just laying down here on the ground. That's kind of what exactly happened directly after Charlie got shot from me personally.
So, just to make sure I'm clear, what you really did right after you realized was you hit the deck. You went down on the ground. Is that right?
Yeah, everyone hit the deck, and I
Okay.
did too.
So everybody just kind of flattens out to avoid if there were any other fires. And then you said, just to make sure I understood, after a few seconds down there, you thought, oh my gosh, I'm sheep. I'm a sitting duck. And that you took off running.
Yeah, exactly. Right on point.
And where did you run to? Or was it just mania? Everybody's just running anywhere.
Yeah, I think if you can see the photo still right there, you see that like little bridge like up there area. So if you keep going along that like building to the right, I just ran straight up all like the concrete like block steps to that door where like everyone was kind of flocking in. And everyone was kind of like there were a few exits, like some went behind where Charlie was at and ran through there is what I was seeing. And a lot of people also went back towards the opposite side. If you were this camera person like directly behind them, there was also like these big doors that are right by the entrance of UVU. That's where kind of people were running around and through and exiting like the fastest way possible.
So did some people, if you can see the photo up, this is behind where Charlie Kirk was shot, the cement you might see there.
Yeah.
Did some people go behind actually the stage there, or did most people dissipate to the right, left, or the opposite way?
Yeah, Jen, a lot of people, I'd say the majority definitely ran to the doors. I think that was kind of the common thing because personally, like, I think there were very few people that ran behind. There definitely were some. But I think everyone's kind of thought was maybe to run away from the shot. So, like, the masses, if like generally, I think everyone kind of ran the other ways. But I saw some people actually running through there and I saw various videos.
And so, uh, Hunter, what after the right after all of this happens and now you're to a point of safety, I'm sure everybody's talking about it, but I want to bring you back to when you first went in. Tell me about the crowd. Were they pro Charlie Kirk? Were they there to take him on? What was your sense of the crowd?
Yeah, something I actually, when I was going out there, I definitely like, and people I was talking to when I was going through the halls, I had a few, like, I knew a few people, that had already told me about it and were super excited to see it. They were actually like, I mean, he was already way popular. And everyone out there, it seemed like everyone was just loving it. They were all kind of having a good time. As like the general crowd there in front, the people who weren't having, like, I guess there was like a few people like for comparing the crowds, they were definitely way smaller. Up there on top of that like bridge area to the right, there were some people chanting and saying stuff like against Charlie Kirk. But like if we're talking about the majority and everyone down there, definitely everyone was there like listening and very interested and very entertained. And so personally, I think everyone was kind of there with like the intention like of pro Charlie Kirk.
And behind there, is this where the people were sort of talking negatively about that? I'll post this on my Twitter, by the way, because I have those chants and everything that they were saying. I haven't posted that yet, but you mean behind there in this
Yeah,
picture?
yeah,
Okay,
for sure. There is a video of them chanting. It's literally like the tent you see directly above there. There's like a railing. If you just keep going to the right, there was like a group up there.
I see. All right. So, Hunter, here we are. You're there in the crowd. All of this has happened. Now you've ran away. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about your reflection, what you felt like after once you knew you were safe, and what you felt even later on about this happening to you.
Yeah, for sure. I think the next day was definitely a big day of reflection. I don't think it set in that same day, but definitely right after, something that hit me first of all was when we all went into the school and then went to like opposite corners. Is I was directly behind where Charlie was. Just there's a few lakes over there, and I was behind those over there. And the first thing that came to my head was, what did this person, whoever it was, like nobody knew, gain from um, killing someone. Like it really comes down to that. It came down to that root for me. I was like, what did this person gain? What were they thinking? They were getting at with this. What was like? This obviously isn't something happy. This isn't something that causes happiness or goodness. That was my first initial thought. because it's just terrible. I think if you come down to the root or the foundation or the building blocks or anything, common sense is that you shouldn't kill anyone. And so I really started to think about um, like caused this, like what was happening in this guy's brain, like what was his upbringing, what went on in his life, how was he? Because it really is just, it's genuinely sad, like showing real emotion. There were so many people crying and screaming around me that were running around. There was cops coming in. Um, and that was really what I thought about it. On a very serious note, I just really thought this person, I was like, whoever it is, just was not thinking right and thinking ahead, because this was only going to cause damage. It really had no gain for him at all, or for anyone. For someone who hadn't, like, in the moment, I didn't know who he was, but later I just researched, and all he ever did was really debate, right? Like words. He'd never done anything, um, like even capable of causing him to be murdered. As I watched a video actually later on a Navy SEAL, he was talking about how um, they had to label people as hostiles to kill them when he was down in the Middle East, and he had to label people as hostiles to be able to kill them even in that situation. Like they couldn't just kill people that had done heinous acts of terrorism. And I was thinking about that. I was like, how could someone be killed like in this way when there are other people doing such terrible things and they're not even like allowed? Obviously they're not even labeled as hostiles. So that's something that really, like, reflecting on it this past little bit and directly after, those are my thoughts. That's how I personally felt.
Yeah, I found it so interesting, and I'm sure there were others like you that didn't even know the name Charlie Kirk and didn't know who he was, weren't fans, if you will, but went there, and you fit in that category. I want to know what you feel about Charlie Kirk now, after you've seen everything that's happened, after you've done some reflection, looked at his film. What's your thoughts? I find it very interesting that then you researched him.
Yeah, afterwards, researching him and everything, personally, me being like a very, like, a person of faith, like that's like number one for me. Obviously, I just was serving a mission for 2 years, like that was my life. I did a lot of research and saw what he did, and I saw a lot that his beliefs and also the way he spoke and the issues he dealt with had to do a lot with his faith. Obviously, things like that you always saw that he really debated about, like abortion, LGBTQ community. He also pushed a lot of like the Trump campaign and things like that. Being like a Christian as well, a believer in Christ, a lot of the things that he would talk about align with my beliefs. And so after watching that and really understanding who Charlie Kirk was and thinking about the things that he said, he also talked a lot about faith. He talked a lot about Jesus. He really promoted that, which personally I love. Like honestly, there's nothing better that you can do than promote love and promote Jesus Christ, which I absolutely like adored about that. And a lot of his beliefs really had to really aligned with me and what I believe and what like I want. You know what I mean? And so after watching and researching Charlie Kirk, I found him to be a good person, someone that stood for what he believed, especially a strong, courageous person, and also in his faith. So those are my thoughts of what I thought about him, Jen, and what I really like researched and came to believe about him.
And so I'm just guessing, but you let me know, how much research did you do on Tyler Robinson, who stands accused of assassinating him? Did you do any research, and sort of what are your reflections about him?
I've done a little bit of research on him, what I've seen. Obviously, right after I was glued to the news, like the next 2 days, and so I kind of saw everything that happened and realized. And I mean, I also live in Utah, like that's where I'm from. But he also obviously he's from Utah, so it kind of like I don't know, it hit home a little bit, and it was a little I don't know, it was tough and sad and thinking a little bit about research and where he comes from and what he was doing I don't know. It's just very interesting. Like, he doesn't seem like someone that you would pick out of a crowd, honestly. Like, he was an ordinary human being. He was a normal person that obviously took extreme acts after researching and seeing kind of what happened. And also watching his court case, I found it very like, I don't know. I watched like a specific video on him and was looking at his body language and just him not really talking. And it also like saddened me a little bit. I was just thinking a lot about like what he was probably thinking or what he was doing. And um, it really, there's nothing that like sticks out about him. He didn't have a criminal background. He was actually like, I watched him. He was like a 4.0 student. What we were talking about, Jen, actually, and um, it was really out of the blue, like an unexpected kind of person. I feel like that would do such a thing.
Did it seem eerie to you? In other words, that he's among us. You know what I mean? That it could have been anybody that was sitting next to you in class, or somebody that you saw at church. Did he seem that ordinary? And is that why it's kind of bothers you?
Yeah, I do have to agree. Like after it happened and everything, definitely like we were talking to like me and my parents were like maybe someone was tracking Charlie for a little bit. Like he's been around the nation, and when we heard it was someone from Utah, it was pretty I don't know. It was a little eerie to think about that like that. I go to UVU, I'm like here, and that he was just I don't know, he was amongst us. Obviously, he was at UVU before. He had to have known what he was doing. And it is an eerie and an interesting feeling, Jen, that he really was just going about this way and he had this planned and this was in his mind and he was actually amongst us.
Right. I want to ask. So after here you are now, it's been over a week later now. Do you think what impact do you think long term this will have on you? I mean, do you see you joining Turning Point? Do you see you sort of just your eyes wide open? Do you feel traumatized? Tell me what you're feeling more long term now that we're a week or so out.
Yeah, definitely. I something super cool that Charlie Kirk believed in is that I always saw like a quote and you'd always talking about because um, really he believed so much in Jesus. That was something super cool. He believed that there's something after this life, right? And so after this experience, I really can see as probably as Charlie would want. He would want us to see this as an eye-opening experience, right? I saw a lot of things that really like changed me. Like me personally, I didn't like to dive into politics often. I just didn't like it. I was just like, I don't really want
You
to.
and me both. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I was just, yeah, Jen, I was not super interested. I was just like, I don't want to, I don't know, I don't want contention, which at the same time was not okay because you don't have to be contentious, right? There's a balance to everything. And I saw it as an eye-opening experience that I need to like stand for what I believe. And I need to take the side of good. That's what I really see because obviously this was not a good act. And obviously, a lot of things that Charlie believes in and that I watched that he would talk about, I also believe in. So I saw this as a changing experience for me, and also a moment of uniting, a moment of love, and also a moment in the deep despair to find positivity always. Like I think that's what Charlie pushed a lot. That's what I saw. And after this reflection, I like reflected for an entire day. I was talking to my dad a lot. Um, Really I saw that the point of taking this and taking all the best from what he did is something that like we can smile about and that he will live on for forever, right? And so that's how I see it. I want to take it in a positive way. It is saddening and it is so hard and like I feel so bad for his family and everyone around him, and I see this as a moment of grief and also a moment of love and to also just push on and carry on and be better. And so that's how I see it.
And this is a good time, I think, to bring Abigail in and bring her voice in, because Abigail, totally opposite of you from the standpoint of you didn't know who Charlie Kirk was, but Abigail did. Abigail, first of all, tell me how you just originally came to know about him and your thoughts on him generally.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always kind of been in tune to the political sphere, especially around the movements that are happening in my generation. I was a big follower of Candace Owens and kind of everyone in Charlie's circle, and he started to resurge and hit my radar a couple of years ago. And then I kind of just from there on social media watched him gain traction and move from college campus to college campus and kind of disciple his beliefs and raise awareness for freedom and freedom of speech. And I think he had a large movement that caught on to everyone kind of very quickly in the political sphere, gained a lot of traction within, especially the past 2 years. Um, I unfortunately was out of undergraduate when he gained traction, so I did not get a chance to join a Turning Point chapter at an undergraduate institution, but that's where he was gaining a lot of traction. So I kind of followed him from a distance until recently.
And I know you had an interest before he was ever assassinated on opening up a group. Can you tell us, from somebody who, I have to be honest, I mean, I hadn't heard of Turning Point. Charlie Kirk to me was, I would see come across my stream every now and then an interchange about a particular subject. And it would catch my attention because I loved how well spoken he was. I loved that he gave the people who had their thoughts, whatever the viewpoint was, he gave them a lot of respect. He listened to them. And then he would have a counterpoint that was always so great. I mean, he had the Bible memorized, he had a lot of statistics memorized. He was just so good at his history that typically he would debate very successfully every single person on every subject on the clips I saw. But he wasn't somebody I particularly followed. So what do you, what's your plans now? And how did this, I should ask you first, how did this assassination impact you? Where were you and what did you think when you first heard?
Oh, it was absolutely horrifying. I was actually sitting in a class on campus, and my younger brother texted me a video, and silently in class, I played it. Um, and it was about 10 feet away from the assassination, a clear shot of the bullet entering and exiting Charlie with his, everything that happened. And it was just horrifying. And I look up and I see around the room that more and more people are certainly silently witnessing this on their phones and their laptops. And everything just kind of felt very eerie, sitting through a lecture with a professor who didn't know what was going on. And unfortunately, at the time, no one made her aware. I think everyone was kind of in shock. I got to witness kind of the different reactions around me with all of the students in my classroom, and I got to see most people kind of were just silent and glued to their computers, watching the video and online looking for updates, trying to see if he had survived the shot or not. I saw some people around the room kind of just have different reactions. I would say there was very few, but definitely present positive reactions, giggles, which kind of felt very out of place. I was sitting next to a person who has different political beliefs than I, as a conservative Christian person. And she was not a supporter of Charlie Kirk, let's just say that, but she was distraught as well and immediately was like, this is awful. This is horrible. So, after class, everyone kind of got together and was talking about it. And by that point, I think the class had ended maybe 2 or 3 minutes after they had announced he had passed away. And I think everyone was just kind of collectively in shock. And it was definitely a very eerie, sad feeling in the room. Just being on a campus that I was trying to start this organization that Charlie founded at. And it wasn't, I mean, it was obviously horrifying, but I was glad to see that the very few minority were the people that were kind of like giggling and making fun of the assassination. So, back to your question on how Turning Point kind of hit my radar. So, I'm in a postgraduate program right now. So, I kind of thought that a turning point, starting a chapter like Turning Point, was out of the question. Thought that was geared more towards undergraduate. And a friend of mine that attends the same school reached out to me over the summer and was like, I know that you're a fan of Turning Point. I know that you're a Christian conservative. Let's get this started on our campus, regardless of whether it's a undergraduate or postgraduate program. And I was completely on board. But I would say our hardest point at that time, our hardest factor was that we were definitely two of the most outspoken on our campus in our political and faith beliefs. And we had a hard time gaining people that were going to join the movement so outwardly rather than just be members. We needed a certain amount of board members and we couldn't get that. So since the assassination, we're definitely gaining traction and we're back on the right path to get a Turning Point started. Many of people have reached out to me saying that they're interested in helping the Turning Point at our school. So it's very promising, I would say, that we're gonna be able to get it started and start our own movement here locally.
You know, when I think of Charlie Kirk, and maybe I think of him just differently, but this whole movement, the reason for me this became really such an issue that I think is so important, and I've kept it at the forefront on my platforms, is because this is about the importance of being able to have your beliefs and being able to say them without fear of being assassinated. I mean, that's really what it came down to for me, is freedom of speech and freedom to go to campuses and interchange and interact with people in a totally nonviolent way and not fear violence. And for me, that's what this whole situation is turned into. And it really reminds me of the Martin Luther King situation. I know you all weren't even born then. I was born in right after, he was assassinated. But you can imagine, what a huge situation that was. And again, that was somebody who put forth his ideas, and it caused so much hate within some people. And then he was assassinated. And I just heard his relative, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, I think it's either his granddaughter or grandniece. If anybody knows in chat, let me know. But it was really interesting because she 100% has come out against this, 100% said he was trying to put forth Christian ideology. What was wrong with that? And even if you don't believe that, how can you murder? It was great. I need to post what she said. But I thought, wow, we have literally gone backwards in time to the 60s, where people have to worry about being assassinated, and the violence that we have in our country right now is awful. Hunter, I want to ask you, you mentioned that this, I think, has changed you, obviously. I wondered, have you had any nightmares, any, dreams about this? Is your faith so strong that you think that has kept you safe? Tell us about anything like that, the trauma that you suffered.
Yeah, Jen. Surprisingly enough, no, I haven't had any like nightmares. I haven't had any like trauma or like any kind of like attacks in that way. It's something really surreal too. I feel like that's something, it just like didn't even settle in. It took like a whole entire day really to like, wow, that was real. Like I really was there too. I like witnessed an assassination. Um, but definitely it is like uh as I like talk with other people around here too, and for me, it's like got a little soft spot in my heart where it just like, you know what I mean? It like you feel it, like you know it's happened, it's right here. I watched it. And it just makes me really, I don't like to turn it to myself personally. It just makes me feel even worse for his family, those who were around him, those who knew him, and those that were severely affected. Because obviously there were people severely affected here around where I'm at. I know that's happened. I knew there was some cases at my school where people were really having a hard time, especially in this week that's gone by. Um, and so, really, that's my thoughts and how I felt, Jen.
I really appreciate that with you both. It's neither of you, for Abigail, I think it was personal, right? It hurt. I don't know if you shed any tears, but it really hurt. And then for Hunter, so traumatic. But instead of talking about you and your feelings and all of that, both of you, Abigail, you may be on the road to getting a chapter started in your postgraduate university. And Hunter, it sounds like it's set you on a mission. It sounds like to be just more vocal and not be one of those behind the scenes with your beliefs, but coming more forward.
Yeah, definitely. I do see it as that way.
It's really, really special. Abigail, did you have anything else you wanted to mention about Turning Point that people just might not know about? I might not know about in terms of your background and what drew you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, what really I think the appeal is, what I'm seeing kind of as a blanket term, is the freedom aspect of being able to share and express your beliefs without feeling silenced. I personally experienced when I was an undergrad around the pandemic. I could not share outwardly my Christian or conservative values without being silenced. And unfortunately, I took the route back then of letting that silence me. And I don't think there was anyone like Charlie back then that was as outspoken, protecting the Constitution and protecting biblical values outwardly without getting persecuted and shut down immediately. And I think he truly, like you said, with the Martin Luther King comparison, has died a martyr for sharing his beliefs, but he did that so well when he was alive that he created a space where people like me that are Christian conservative youths feel comfortable sharing those values and feel that they are not alone. And kind of Turning Point as a whole creates a space of unity to where young people have that sort of freedom of expression and not feeling that they are a minority in their opinions, and that being a Christian conservative as a young person is okay. Across college campuses, postgraduate degrees, and even just young professionals are starting that movement to create just a space of safety to where people can express their opinions and feel like they're not being shut down. I feel like that is what happened during the 2020 era with the pandemic. Anytime that anyone had a sort of Christian or conservative view that they would outwardly express, they would, like Charlie, be called a bigot or a fascist. And that is just not true by definition. And I think the people that called Charlie a fascist, and that is what ended up happening to him. And he was just a martyr for his Christianity and his conservatism. And I think Turning Point has every intention to continue his movement for young people, that they did not silence the young Christian conservatives in the United States by silencing Charlie's voice. His spirit is still going to survive through his death, through this organization. And I know it has gained so much traction since his death. I know there's over 900 chapters across the US now, which is just incredible to see. And at least online for me, most of the discourse is very positive. In remembrance of Charlie Kirk and his voice and continuing his movement. And I think that it's gained even more traction since his death, which is one positive takeaway from the whole situation.
For those of you who just are joining in, we're here with Hunter, who was actually, I'm going to show you his vantage point. He tried to pick himself out. He's not 100% sure, but if you can see my cursor, basically right where that red hat is, right around there, I believe, looking onto the stage when everything happened. And we also have here Abigail, who was a part of the Turning Point movement, if you will, prior to anything happened. And I just really thought it was important to have these young voices. So many of us in this true crime community, we're older, and this is our future. These young adults, and this is impactful. It's been impactful nationwide at every age level. But these two young people, this is our future. And so I wanted to know and understand, the impact of all of this on them. And I really appreciate both of you. Abigail's got class here in about 20 minutes. And Hunter, I appreciate you. I want to ask you, Hunter, I know that classes were canceled about a week. Can you talk to me about the first day back? Can you talk to me about what is going on campus with all of this happen? Do you feel safe, and do you feel disappointed that this assassination could even happen?
Yeah, something interesting as I've been on campus, it does feel a little different. There's obviously I've seen a bit more police. There's a lot of mental health resources. There's a lot of things out there to help. And also, it is a little saddening. It is kind of crazy to think how it was very easy. Obviously, it is hard to think about, I mean, how that could have been stopped. There's obviously ways, and there's other ways as well that we can think about how like hard that was to, I don't know, anticipate. But as I've been on campus, I've kind of felt that I feel safe personally. I don't feel endangered because also it was just a specific attack on Charlie. But really, it does, I think, affect a lot of people in their how they feel in their space, and it will affect them in times to come just from hearing, I don't know, maybe things going around on campus, just little I don't know, trigger actions and things that happen in the course of the time we're there. But as I've been there, that's how I felt, Jen.
Yeah, I bet. And what about your campus, Abigail? I know you're far away from, where this happened across the country, 2 time zones. But tell us, were there any classes canceled? Is there any sense of, geez, if we have an important speaker on campus, do you feel safe?
I think it's yeah, there was no classes canceled or anything, but I think safety isn't an issue on my campus in particularly. We have had some discussions about we held a vigil last week. The Republicans Club at my campus held a vigil, and there was some, weariness about going there just for safety reasons, but it ended up being a great thing and a great turnout, and everyone was safe. I think since this was such a political assassination, just targeting Charlie Kirk, and we're still kind of in the works of knowing exactly who all was involved, I think that safety is not an issue. I think safety is always kind of an issue when you voice your opinion like that, and it shouldn't be. Unfortunately, we're seeing the repercussions of that with Charlie, and it's so sad that he has to leave his voice on earth, leave his family behind. But I think anyone who people disagree with today's society, there is always a chance of that violence, and that needs to be solved, because that is just, never okay.
And I have one last question for you both. I'll start with Hunter first, and then move on to Abigail really quick, because I know you have to head to campus or to school. But what about, have you all experienced at your schools people who say, I mean, what we see online, yay, he's dead. He should have died. He should have died a long time ago. This is, what he gets. He's a bigot. He's, all these other horrible things. What is the sense on your campus? Are there 10% of those people, 0%? What are you seeing, Hunter?
Personally, I saw a video of someone jumping up and cheering after he had been shot. So I know they're definitely there. There are some people personally that I've met, though, that I've talked with. It's kind of seen as a horror by everyone that I've personally interacted with and seen. Really, I haven't seen that like by anyone that's had a positive reaction to this. That's seen this as good when it's been something bad.
Okay, so you really haven't seen too much of it other than that jumping up and down video. All in all, even people, if they didn't like Charlie Kirk, are saying this was just wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How about you, Abigail?
I've seen just a little bit of it. Thankfully, that is definitely the slight minority of people celebrating, but immediately online, the people at my school, there was just a few people at my school, and take this with a grain of salt, because though I feel like the very little I have voiced my opinion online, my political views, the people that disagree with me immediately block me. So I think my opinion might be a little skewed, that I wouldn't see that discourse online. But yeah, there was immediately some social media posts talking about gun control and posting pictures of his family. Like, are you referencing the right going to do something now? And that's about as nasty as I saw as my fellow students, but nothing celebratory past that. They were kind of using his death as leverage in some sort of political conversation about gun control or policy.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I think for the most part, people believe, no matter what your beliefs are, this is just so very wrong and cuts to the fabric of what we must protect, and that's our freedom of speech. So I just want to thank you, Abigail. I want to thank you, Hunter. Hunter, I want to say, I am so very sorry for what you had to witness. I know you can never unsee something like that. And I so appreciate your strength and courage. I can tell you're such a strong believer. And Abigail, thank you for coming on the show publicly, be able to stand up and say, you know what, I'm a Christian conservative, and I can voice that without feeling bad. Because that had been the sentiment, it seems, for a very long time, and Charlie Kirk moved to change that.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, especially to give me a platform to voice that and my concerns and promote Turning Point.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Hunter. I'll see you all later. Thank you again. I will give you both a call later after the show. Everyone, thank you for being here. To my mods, thank you so much. Everyone, I really appreciate you keeping the conversation so gentle and so, respectful and nice. I thought, as I was thinking about just all, everything that's happened in light of this, how important it was to have somebody's voice come on that was there. And I thought it was very interesting when I found Hunter, that he wasn't even a Charlie Kirk fan, didn't even know who he was, just happened to be there. Just think how many people were probably like that, were there, and, and how impactful it's been to his life and how he's going to move forward. And then, of course, Abigail, the strength she now feels, and that it sounds like there's going to be a unity in Turning Point at her campus, which I think is great that her platform has been strengthened. So hopefully we don't see anything like this anymore. I just don't think there'll ever be a Charlie Kirk. I was trying to think if there was anybody that could go to campuses and debate like he could debate, just talk about the issues, whether you believe he was right or wrong, just to be able to have that discourse. I want to end with something that Charlie Kirk said that, to me, and again, he was somebody I never followed, but I have gotten to know him so much more through this process. He said, when discourse stops and the conversation ends and you're no longer able to debate, that's when violence happens. Paraphrasing here, but that's the message. And it's just so ironic, obviously, that he was trying to engage in discourse and Tyler Robinson refused and turned to violence. So in any event, that's the message. Gonna leave it there for now. But thank you all so much for being here. I'll look over the comments after. And until next time, may justice be served for Charlie Kirk.